Hi everyone, and welcome to the Sound Mind podcast, where we dive into the fascinating world of music psychology. I'm your host, Sophia, and as a music psychologist, I'll be guiding you through everything you've ever wondered about music. So, whether you're a music lover or just interested in the science of sound, you're in the right place. Have you ever found yourself stuck on one song, playing it over and over and over again? Like, you can't get enough of it. Maybe it's a heartbreak ballad or an upbeat jam that just lifts you up, or even just something so nostalgic that it literally feels like a time machine. Why do we do that? Why do we keep hitting repeat on the same track, sometimes for days, weeks, or even months? We're all guilty of it. Well, today I want to talk about what's going on in our brains and hearts when that one song just won't let go, and what it might be telling us about ourselves. Whether it's comfort, obsession, healing, or something else entirely, repetition in music is one of the most intimate ways we interact with sound. So, let's get into it. Let's start off with the science, because your brain isn't just tolerating repetition, it's actually wired to love it. There's a well-established psychological principle called the mere exposure effect, and it's pretty simple. The more we're exposed to something, whether it's a face, a brand, a phrase, or a song, the more we tend to like it. Now, this effect was first identified by social psychologist Robert Zionk in the 1960s, and in his experiments, participants were repeatedly shown unfamiliar images or words, and over time, they started to prefer the ones that they'd seen most often, even if they had no memory of seeing them before. The exposure alone was enough to generate a positive feeling. Now, apply that to music. Every time you replay a song, it becomes more familiar, and that familiarity brings comfort. It smooths the listening experience. You know when the beat's about to drop, when the chorus is going to kick in, or when your favorite lyric is coming. Your brain is anticipating those moments, and actually, it loves being right. This connects to something called predictive coding, which is a theory in neuroscience that suggests that your brain is constantly trying to predict what's coming next. When your prediction matches the reality, like when you anticipate a chorus or a chord progression and it just lands exactly the way you expect, your brain gives you a little hit of dopamine. And that's the feel-good chemical. Musical anticipation is one of the key ways that our brains interact with music, and one of the reasons that we love it so much. In a way, music is like a game that your brain is always trying to win, and repetition is how it plays better. Another reason that repetition feels so good is because music itself is structured. It's built on rhythm, pattern, and symmetry. And from a cognitive standpoint, music is one of the most predictable and pattern-based forms of information that we consume. And human beings, we love patterns. We evolve to find safety in predictability. When things are repetitive, they feel less threatening. They require less cognitive effort. And listening to a song you already know, well, it's kind of like rewatching your favorite movie or TV show. It's comforting, it's easy, and your brain doesn't have to work as hard. I'm definitely one of those people that certain periods of my life, I just need to go back to my comfort show. I need to go back to my comfort albums. I just love a bit of nostalgia. I love a bit of safety. But honestly, I blame it on the fact that there's not always something new to watch or something new to listen to, something good anyway. And I love just knowing that, okay, I already love this album, I already love this song or TV show or movie, and I know it's going to make me feel good. So I would rather listen to that or watch that than sometimes risk watching something new. And unlike learning a new track, which demands attention, cognitive effort, and emotional openness, replaying a song that you already know offers pleasure with minimal input. You're not analyzing or decoding anything new. There's no surprises, no unexpected turns. Your brain already knows what's coming, and that means that it can just fully relax and simply enjoy. This kind of low-effort pleasure is deeply appealing, especially when we're feeling mentally taxed, emotionally raw, or overwhelmed. In those states, we naturally seek what psychologists call cognitive ease, which is stimuli that doesn't require much processing power but still delivers emotional reward. And music we already love sits at the top of that list. So, in that sense, familiar songs offer the emotional equivalent of comfort food. They're safe, satisfying, and require little to no emotional risk. That's great, right? But sometimes the repetition isn't even a choice. Enter earworms, or what they're called in scientific terms, involuntary musical imagery. I actually did a whole episode on earworms if you're interested in diving deeper into those, but you know that feeling when a snippet of a song, maybe a line, the chorus, even a beat, just starts looping in your head without permission, over and over again. Sometimes it's a song that you love. Actually, sometimes it's a song that you hate. But there it is, and earworms are surprisingly common. Research shows that almost all people have experienced them at some point in their life. And they're often triggered by recent exposure to music, emotional salience as well, or even boredom when your mind is kind of just vacant and ruminating. But not all songs become earworms. According to research, the most common culprits share specific musical features. So, first of all, simple, repetitive melodies. Think, Lady Gaga's Bad Romance or maybe Call Me Maybe. Then they usually have unusual intervals that stand out and rhythmic hooks or lyrical phrases that are easy to mentally loop. So, I don't know, think about Taylor Swift's Shake It Off. And then you've also got this crucially predictable structure with a slight novelty. Think about those songs I mentioned. They're short, they're sticky, and they're structured to be repeated, both in your playlist and in your mind. And sometimes when we actually get stuck on a song, it's because our brains are trying to resolve the loop. We keep replaying it not just because we want to, but because our minds are seeking completion. Think of it like a back scratch. It's like a cognitive itch. Replaying the song or even just mentally finishing the phrase, it can actually help satisfy that need for resolution. And this is what makes repetition feel almost involuntary at times. And neuroscientists believe that this is part of how our auditory working memory operates. When a musical phrase is unresolved or unfinished, our brains perceive it as open and will continue to process it until it feels closed. Replaying the song, either mentally or out loud, it helps bring that loop to a satisfying end. Until the next time, of course. So when you put all of this together, you've got the predictive pleasure of knowing what's coming next, the cognitive fluency of processing something easy and familiar, the dopamine reward that comes with accuracy and emotional payoff, and that automatic loop resolution that kicks in with an earworm. With all of this, it's no wonder that your brain loves musical repetition. It's not mindless, it's not lazy, it's one of the most efficient, adaptive ways that we access joy, comfort, and regulation, one familiar song at a time. But repetition doesn't just serve our brains, it serves our hearts too. We tend to loop music most obsessively during moments of emotional intensity. Think breakups, even deaths, falling in love, or moments of transition, like moving cities or starting over again. But why is this? Because music reflects emotion better than language often can. And when you find that one song that captures exactly what you're feeling, whether it's heartbreak, hope, longing, or joy, you naturally want to stay in it. You want to feel understood. And repeating that song is one way to hold on to that emotional validation. It's as if the song is saying, I get you. I'm here. Stay with me for a bit longer. And this makes music a powerful tool for what psychologists call emotional regulation, which is our ability to manage, process, and make sense of what we feel. According to Yuslin and Sloboda in their work on music and emotion, Listening to music can influence emotional states through both conscious and unconscious processes. So you might deliberately choose a sad song when you want to cry, or you might unknowingly feel calmer after hearing something soothing. Either way, music bypasses the intellectual layers and gets straight to the core of how you feel. And here's where repetition becomes meaningful. When we play a song on repeat, we're not just re-listening, we're re-experiencing. We're returning to an emotional state, sitting with it, and letting it unfold fully. Sometimes over and over again, until we've metabolized what we needed to feel. And some researchers refer to this process as musical rumination, which is the looping or replaying of music during these emotional periods. And while rumination in psychology is usually framed negatively as more repetitive, unproductive thinking, music-facilitated rumination can be productive and even healing. It offers us a way to revisit a feeling with structure, sound, and safety. So we loop sad songs because it helps us cry or gives us permission to. We loop love songs because it reminds us of being seen, adored, or held. We blast something angry or aggressive because we need to let our rage out, or maybe we play hopeful, triumphant songs when we're trying to convince ourselves that we're going to be okay. In those moments, lyrics often say what we can't. A well-crafted line might speak our truth more clearly than we ever could, and music gives those unspoken emotions a home, a way to take shape outside of our bodies. When we don't have the words for something or talking feels too vulnerable, looping a song becomes a form of expression. And this is where the science of emotional contagion also kicks in. This is the idea that we can absorb the emotion of the music that we hear. So when we listen to a sad piece of music, say a piano melody in a minor key, our physiological state begins to mirror that mood. So think about having a slower heart rate, lower blood pressure, or just more introspective brainwave activity. Research has even shown that melancholic music can even trigger the release of oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone that helps us feel connected and soothed. That's why listening to music like this on repeat can feel like being held by the music. You're not just hearing it, you're literally sitting inside it. And that repetition becomes a ritual. You revisit the same song, not out of laziness, but because you're still processing. You still need that. And there's also a powerful memory component to this as well. When you loop a song during a significant emotional moment, so a heartbreak, maybe a goodbye, even a late night existential spiral, your brain encodes that music along with the memory. And this happens because music activates the medial prefrontal cortex, which is deeply involved in autobiographical memory. In other words, music helps us remember who we were in that moment. Every time you replay that song after that, you're reinforcing that connection. The song becomes tagged. It's basically a container for that memory, that version of you at that time. You might not realize that you're doing that in the moment, but you just know, you feel it. I need to hear that song again because it holds something that maybe you're not ready to let go of yet. And when you come back to it years later, even if your life has completely changed, the memories come rushing back. And that's not a coincidence, that's emotional encoding through music. It's why breakup songs hurt years after you've moved on, why cheesy love songs make you smile because maybe it once meant something, and why music can make us cry faster than any movie scene can. So, no. You're not weird for looping the same song during your heartbreak, your healing era, or falling in love. You're not stuck. You're processing. You're consolidating your memory and honoring how it feels in that moment. Music holds the feelings that we can't yet name, and I think that's something so deeply human, just using music to feel, remember, and move through the emotions. Now, let's talk about something that I feel like doesn't get enough credit when we think about music. Its power to create comfort through routine. Because beyond just emotional processing, repeating a song can actually be about creating order in a world that often just feels chaotic. Let's be honest, modern life is noisy. Plans shift, news cycles spiral, messages are constantly pinging, and we're overstimulated, overcommitted, and often running on empty. But that one song, it always starts the same, always builds the same, always ends the same. And that predictability, that sense of structure, can really feel like a lifeline. It's not just about nostalgia or preference. For many of us, especially those who are neurodivergent, repetition is a strategy. For people with ADHD, autism, or sensory processing sensitivities, repeated music isn't just background noise, it's a form of regulation. It's a tool to manage input, anchor focus, and soothe that sensory overwhelm that comes with everything. When you listen to a song on repeat, you eliminate the need for adjustment. There's no surprises, no sudden changes. You don't need to assess whether the new sound is going to energize or derail you. You already know what's coming, and that known outcome equals safety. And this is especially true in moments of overstimulation. Think about the busy morning commute, being in crowded places, a stressful workday, just having a loud internal monologue. Looping a familiar song creates this kind of sensory cocoon. You don't have to fight with your environment or your brain. You just kind of drop into a groove that you already trust. For many people with ADHD, repetitive music is used as a focus aid, almost like a mental white noise machine. Once the brain locks into a familiar rhythm or pattern, it stops scanning for novelty and allows attention to settle down. And that's the key. Familiarity reduces cognitive load. You're not fighting distractions, you're giving your brain something stable to hold on to. And this same principle is true for autistic listeners or those with sensory integration issues. The world really can be too much. It's too loud, too bright, or too fast. And in these cases, looping a song can become a form of self-directed therapy. It's a predictable, manageable input that doesn't ask too much and doesn't take you by surprise. It's a form of stimulation, but safe stimulation. And let's be real, even for people without a formal diagnosis, music repetition does become a form of ritual. It's literally the soundtrack to our daily routine. Think about the song you play every morning while getting ready, the playlist you fall asleep to every night, or the hype track that you need at the gym or walking into a meeting. These aren't just habits, they're literally microstructures of control in a world that rarely feels controllable. And actually, music therapy formalizes this instinct. In clinical settings, therapists often open and close sessions with the same hello song and goodbye song. And this is because repetition builds trust, predictability, and emotional safety. And this is especially helpful for children, trauma survivors, and of course, neurodivergent clients. But at the end of the day, it's powerful for all of us. These songs really signal a shift. Now you're in a safe space. We're reflecting, we're grounding, and welcome. And outside of the therapy room, we do this all the time, often without realizing it. We build those musical rituals into our lives to cope, to heal, and function. It's part of our daily regulation and resilience. So if you've ever looped the same track to fall asleep, replayed a song just to get yourself through the day, or put on the same playlist because anything new just felt like too much, you're not being just repetitive. You're taking care of your nervous system. You're using music in the way that humans have always used it, as rhythm and structure. You create this comfort through consistency, and it's almost like saying, I can control this, I can count on this, and this feels like home. And your brain, your overstimulated, overworked, and emotionally saturated brain, it's going to thank you for it. And it does. So so far we've talked about how repetition works in your brain and in your emotions, but there's another force at play that makes looping music not just natural, but almost inevitable in the world that we live in today. And that's culture and technology. Because the way that we listen to music today, it's designed for repetition. It's built to make it easy and addictive to hit play over and over again. So let's start with streaming culture. Back in the day, you had to rewind a tape or restart a CD to replay your favorite track. And now it's a tap, it's a swipe. You can even infinitely play something on repeat without ever leaving the app. Streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, they've made instant replay frictionless. It's literally zero effort, and more importantly, it feels good. You don't even need to go searching for that one song you love. You've literally got algorithmically curated playlists like your top songs, repeat rewind on repeat, and your daily mixes, all kind of subtly nudging you towards the tracks that you've already played the most. But it goes even deeper than that. The algorithm is watching what you repeat. It learns what you like and it gives you more of it. So that one song that you listened to 10 times last week, it's now the anchor for your Discover Weekly, your Release Radar, and your entire curated music experience. And this creates what's called a feedback loop. The more you play something, the more similar stuff you're recommended, and the more likely you are to stay in that same musical mood. It's convenient, but it also subtly shapes your taste and sometimes even your emotional state without you realizing it. Now, I talked about this in last week's episode on TikTok and the psychology of musical virality, but it's worth repeating here. Short-form content platforms like TikTok, they've trained us to consume music in tiny, hyper-repetitive bursts. A song goes viral not because people are streaming the full track, but because 15 seconds of it is being used in hundreds of thousands of videos. And every time you scroll past that clip, you're hearing it again. It's like a microdose of musical repetition. And this isn't passive listening, it's algorithmically forced exposure. But it works because before you even know the artist's name, you're already singing their chorus. And as a result, and I touched on this in last week's episode, artists are now writing music that's meant to be looped. I mean, just think about the structure of some of the biggest songs of the last few years. They start right at the hook, so there's no long intro, no slow build. They feature short, emotional chorus lines that are easy to share and quote. And oftentimes, they fade out or they end abruptly, making you feel like the song never fully resolved, and that encourages you to hit play again. It's a formula. You've got that emotional high, quick playoff, and loop from the exit. And it makes sense because the platforms reward that kind of design. So while your emotional connection to a song is real and your brain is doing its own thing, there's also a system in place that's quietly encouraging you to stay in that loop. Not because it's trying to help you feel something, but because for them, your attention has value. The longer you stay on the platform, the more ads get shown, the more data gets collected, and the more money gets made. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I would say that it's definitely worth being aware of because sometimes when we hit repeat, it's not about emotion or comfort. It's about the way that modern music is being built and sold to us in loops. So in today's episode, we've spoken about why your brain loves repetition, why your heart clings to it, and how the culture around us is quietly encouraging it. But I want to end with this. What does your repeat song actually say about you? Because repetition at its core is a signal that something inside of you is trying to stay close to that sound. Maybe it's for comfort, for clarity, and maybe it's for connection. Some people loop songs to soothe themselves, like a musical blanket, and others loop something to feel something more deeply, to sit with it a little bit longer. Some people repeat songs to stay in a moment of joy, but others, they let the sadness catch up to them. And there's no one way to use repetition, but however you're doing it, your song choice is telling you something. It might reflect a mood that you're not ready to leave, or a version of yourself that you're trying to stay close to, or even a memory, a place in time, or a person even that you're revisiting over and over again because it meant something to you. Psychologists often say that music is a mirror, and that mirror isn't static. It changes with us. Throughout our whole lifetime, our music tastes change, and what we repeat also changes. So, when you find yourself obsessed with a certain track, just ask yourself, what am I feeling when I listen to this? What part of me is being reflected back? And what might I be trying to hold on to or let go of? Because repetition doesn't mean that you're stuck. It most of the time means that you're processing, you're connecting, you're using music as a tool to understand yourself a little bit more. And I want to be really clear here to finish up. There's absolutely nothing wrong with listening to the same song over and over again. I am so guilty of it. It's not a bad habit. It's not a weakness. It's actually adaptive, even therapeutic. You're letting sound help you regulate, reflect, and feel, and that's not indulgent, it's human. So the next time you find yourself pressing play again, pause for a second and notice what it's doing for you. That song might just be holding something important, a part of your story, your memory, or your healing process. Our brains, they crave patterns. Our hearts crave connection because in this world that moves so fast, a familiar song just gives us something to hold on to. Honestly, we repeat songs that feel like home, and I resonate with that so much. It really tells us something about where we are in our lives, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So, if there's a song that you can't stop listening to right now, just sit with it. Let it speak. Let it stay. I think that you'll find there's something there for you. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Sound Mind. If you've enjoyed this episode, please rate or review on wherever you're listening and share it with someone who loves music just as much as you do or might just find it interesting. Don't forget to follow us and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And come and say hi over on Instagram and Threads at The Sound Mind Talks. But until next time, keep listening, keep reflecting, and I'll see you on The Sound Mind.